Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We are talking Steelers and Titans, a Week 15 matchup at Heinz Field on Sunday. Let's introduce you to our panelists to dissect this matchup. Mike Prisuta of the DVE Morning Show and Steelers.com. Happy as always. Greg Wolfley of the DVE Steelers Radio Network and Arthur Moats, Hall of Famer, former Steelers outside linebacker. Had to throw in the Hall of Famer first. Triv, I will start with you. In terms of the Steelers offense, inconsistent is probably a very good way to explain how they have been throughout this entire season. So heading into this matchup with the Titans D, what is the best way to attack them?
Put the third quarter on the scoreboard when the game starts and put a deficit up of about 25 points and then see where they take off from there. Actually, the best way to attack them, Missy, I think, figure out what works and do that. And while that sounds like a Captain Obvious kind of statement, I think they've had a lot of success with the RPO, the run-pass option game, particularly in some of these comebacks of late. As Ben Roethlisberger has explained that this week, in your typical RPO, there are 3 pass play options and 1 running play option, assuming that the quarterback is not a running option, which at this stage of the game for Ben, we should assume that's the case. Let him kind of figure it out as he goes and do what he thinks is best at the right time. I don't think he's going to throw it 75 times if given the opportunity to do so. I think he'll be judicious, picking between the run and the pass. And I think he's got a great feel for what to call and when. So the more options, the better for number 7 would be my suggestion.
All right, Wolf, in terms of playing off what Prisuta said, starting with the third quarter, we have seen what they have been able to do in terms of coming back in the second half. No huddle, up tempo, kind of going along of, what Mike is saying about the RPOs has worked for the Steelers. So how do you start things like that in the first half, knowing especially that the Titans defense is number 2 in the league in run defense?
Well, one thing will help you is drink more coffee. I mean, let's get this party started early. You know what I mean? Go super caffeine and get after it. And one of the things that happens when you come out, get after it right away. I would love to win the coin toss, then come out and put my offense out there and see if I can put some points on the board and kind of change things up. A little homogenation, get it in a different and get some life going there. And I think if you are able to do a little bit of hurry up along with some multiple tight end formations where you got a little bash, smash, and then no huddle and change things around a little bit and kind of move the tempo a little bit. That's what we're trying to do. That's what I think would help.
Arthur,
now, Wolf, you hit on something right there when you said the tempo part. For me, that's something that I think they could implement, and it's a lot easier to do, and it doesn't have to have a drastic change in personnel and philosophy. But I do think that it would help with the urgency earlier in games to just make you feel like, hey, we got to get going. We can't kind of walk into this thing sleepwalking like we've seen at times with this team.
Plus, I think it's easier to do that at home opposed to inside a dome at US Bank Stadium where, Wolf was even upstairs, but he knew how loud it was in that venue, the miscommunication among the O-line we saw. Arthur, for you, I want you to go back to last season for 11 weeks, getting the ball out quick, slinging it worked. So is that something they could maybe incorporate, going off the fact that Ben did praise the wide receivers and how much they need those guys down the stretch?
Yes, to an extent that does help, because when we talk about the quick passing game, it was in response to the lack of effective running that we had, right? Or that we did not have. Now, I do think we could have a combination of that, because obviously you don't want to continue to run Najee into the ground, and it could just act as almost like a substitute run play for them in a sense. But I'd caution you, right? I don't want them to get into that trap they fell into last year where they became too enamored with it and it became very lopsided in terms of just the sheer amount of attempts that we were seeing on the ground and how one-dimensional that made this offense become. So yes, I would like to see them implement some of those quicker passing attacks and operate them as pseudo run plays, but I still feel like you have to play through Najee and allow him to get going, so that way it makes that defense play honest.
Amen. Can't not forget that guy. I think the keeping Roethlisberger in control is a good thing, but I think he'll choose enough runs when the runs are there to be exploited. And I think the whole thing with the tempo, to me, the main reason you want to do that is to find a defensive 11 that you think you can exploit. If they've got their nickel out there and you think you can beat their nickel, then keep their nickel on the field. You can go no huddle without necessarily hurrying it up, because one of the things I think they have to be aware of as well, guys, is the defense is struggling right now. And even when the defense is playing well, any defense plays better when it's on the sideline as opposed to when it's on the field. Tennessee is a big ball control team. The Titans have won the time of possession. I think it's 10 of their 13 games. So maybe make them a little uncomfortable, make their offense watch, and kind of slowly bleed their defense while you're dictating who's actually playing defense for them.
I think one of the things that's going to be really important, sorry if I jumped in here, but the fact is, the first 15 or so plays, that you're scripting, you've got to take a look at, that they watched that film out of US Bank Arena. They saw what Mike Zimmer did. They saw the AA gap stuff. They saw the overloaded B gap stuff. They're going to try to do similar sorts of things, I got to believe, until the Steelers show that they can handle those. So when you talk about short routes, some of them, you got to be careful about the crossing routes early just to see what these guys are going to do in the A and B gaps. You got to figure that out. I think part of that is if you go to some multiple tight end formations too, you can do some pounding up front and get after them and kind of hit those perimeters and hit with Najee as well. So it's just a thought.
All right, it is time now to take a look at our Week 15 opening lines across the league, presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and you're ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app or simply visit pa.unibet.com. We have much more coming here on the Matchup Show. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the Titans offense. No Derrick Henry, but what are they doing so well? And what will the Steelers defense need to go against? We'll talk about that when we return. Everybody, welcome back to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. Time now to talk about the Steelers defense versus the Titans offense. And Triv, no Derrick Henry. They have not had his services the last 6 weeks, but they're still in the top 5 for running. Are they doing anything different schematically, or is it the same thing as if Henry was here?
There's one major schematic difference, and that is that they don't have a 6'3", 247-pound horse with breakaway speed executing the schematics. The running backs are not fearsome. The games without Derrick Henry, the average looks good. I think it's a little bit bloated by a 270-yard rushing performance against New England. I'm not sure how Tennessee managed to rush for 270 yards and lose the game 36-13, but the Titans pulled that off. The rest of the time, it's been in the 60s or just over 100. When you're talking about their running game, you're talking about having to stop Deonta Freeman, who's got 240 yards this year, 661 for his career. Dontrell Hilliard, 179 this year, and 276 for his career. Or Ryan Tannehill, scrambling, bootlegging, whatever. Maybe the most dangerous aspect of this running game now is Tannehill near the vicinity of the goal line. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns. But, yeah, they're going to try to do the same stuff, but it ought to be able to be stopped. People have done it, Missy.
All right, well, if you saw what happened in Minnesota for the Steelers defense heading into this week, they were in pads yesterday. What did they have to do to stop the run?
Yeah, well, you know what? Square shoulders, a low pad level, an extreme desire to get off blocks, and then gang tackle. I mean, I don't care what system you run. I don't care if it's a 3-4, it's over, under, what have you. You've got to have an extreme desire to lock out, run to the ball, and gang tackle. Hey, if you're late to the dance, run that anyhow, okay? I mean, you bring the more guys you bring to the party, the better it's going to be. So you've got to make sure that you execute your fundamental techniques, have good vision, make sure you're seeing things. Don't be caught up in shiny things that whether there's motion or fakes and stuff like that. You've got to have clear vision, and Arthur knows all about this stuff. Make sure that you get on your horse and run. Get to that ball.
Wolf, you almost brought a tear to my eyes. Man, never would I ever have imagined that an O-lineman will be talking this highly, and not just from a positive, but I like the minutia that was associated with that. Man, I couldn't have said it better right there, baby. I couldn't have said it better. Oh, man.
Arthur, sorry, Wolf. In terms of Ryan Tannehill, the run action, how does the Steelers defense balance, not getting burned on one side of the ball?
Yeah, I think the big thing when you're talking about this Titans offense, you have to understand that play action pass is a big part of it. That's part of the reason why Tannehill has been so successful there, and it's largely predicated on when they had Derrick Henry, right? And they could run that ball the way that they were. But right now, they aren't running at the same effectiveness, right? They still have a commitment to doing it, but it's not nearly as effective. And I do think that if we can turn that run back, now you get a chance to highlight some of these matchups like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith on the perimeter. And, I think that they're going to be able to have, some good matches where they can create some pressure on Tannehill and ultimately not allow him to extend plays, not allow him to scramble and use his legs to create something out of nothing at sometimes. And that's the thing that he has done really well. But you also can see that since Henry has been out, and he's been forced to throw the ball more, the turnovers have went up as well. So that's why even more so it becomes that much more important to stop the run this week, because you have a very, very favorable matchup if they can do that.
Yeah, Henry's the highest profile guy on the reserve injured list for Tennessee, but he's not the only star player. A.J. Brown, their best wide receiver, and another guy who's just a matchup nightmare from a physical standpoint. He's not playing either. And Ryan Tannehill's passing without Derrick Henry, 143 yards, 213, 323 against Houston, but he threw 4 picks, 93 yards and 191. They're not exactly lighting it up on the ground or through the air since Derrick Henry went out. If it's me, I do what is needed to stop the run, and I count on my guys to cover even if it's one-on-one, because the first thing you have to do is make sure that there's no repeat of that first half against Minnesota. Both the gaping holes that were available to the Vikings and the number of rushing yards they were able to grind out. Stop that and make them beat you in a manner that their play since Henry went out suggests they're going to have a hard time doing it that way.
But a word to the wise, and this Mike's right on. You got to stop that run. The thing about it is, you look at this group of 5 up front. These are 5 flat backers that look like they've been raised in running cages. Those things where, the blocking cages that we have out back, you got to keep low and pad level. These guys have low pad levels. They come off the ball. Nate Davis, Roger Saffold, Taylor Lewan, Ben Jones, and David Quisenberry. All these 5 guys, I think this is the most physical offensive line we've seen since either through the whole league or since Cleveland. Let's put it that way.
The Steelers status report will come out on Friday, but Arthur mentioned the outside linebackers, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. Hopefully they come back after missing some time in the Minnesota game. And then Joe Hayden, who the Steelers have been without for 4 games. That would obviously be a huge emphasis and a good thing for them as well. But guys, it is time now to tell everybody about Pick and Win. And it is presented by Unibet. Each week, participants can answer a variety of trivia and predictive questions to earn points. The person with the most points at the end of each week wins a prize, and the grand prize at the end of the season to the top points getter is a trip to the Pro Bowl in Las Vegas. It's free and easy to play. Just download the Steelers official mobile app, create a fan profile, and find the Pick and Win banner under the Fan Zone section. All right, for Mike Prisuta, Craig Wolfley, and Arthur Moats, I'm Missi Matthews. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We'll see you guys next week.
What's up, Steelers Nation? It's James Washington. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the Steelers official YouTube channel. Thanks again, and here we go.